Hello everybody, it's me! Marshall aka Black Star Chan X3. Recently I did a poll on what manga I should review and y'all chose Black Butler. In the future, I'd like to do said polls on my Patreon, but there's not enough of you over there yet. So if you're interested in helping my work, subscribe to it, or just subscribe to the channel. Either helps me out immensely. Black Butler, also known as Kuro Shitsuji, is a series I'm very mixed upon. It was started as a manga by the author and artist Yano Toboso in 2006, and at present there's 33 volumes. If you're wondering what Kuro Shitsuji means, Japanese, the word for black is kuro, and I'm sure you can put together what Shitsuji means.
It's Butler.
Japanese lesson aside, let's get into how I feel about this manga. I love its general atmosphere and aesthetics. It's Butler aesthetics, you could say. But the anime I find is just a mess, which is my main source of Black Butler media I've viewed over and over again. I know it's getting more content though, and I'm very excited about that. But this little side tangent is about the original anime, or as I'd like to call it, the Funny Butler Show. It doesn't follow the manga closely at all. This is evident in the first episode, in fact, as it deviates so strongly from the first chapter of the manga, it's not even funny. This Italian stereotype gets burned in an oven in the anime, and is trying to siphon money from CL. And he says multiple things to slight this small Victorian child, but in the manga he's just a regular dude.
And this evening, Mr. Damiano of the Poseidon Company will be paying you a visit. Mr. Damiano of the Poseidon Company will...
Mr. Damiano of the Poseidon Company. Mr. Damiano of the Poseidon Company.
A bit of an airhead, but seems genuinely happy to see CL. He's a bit insensitive to CL being a child in charge and the head of the house, but let's face it, that is odd. There's an error in the first episode, if you can even call it that. Later in the circus arc, as a child, CL calls this man Uncle Klaus, so, we can assume these characters are on at least somewhat good terms and are close to each other. He's a family friend. The anime really botches this relationship. I understand why they decided to do things the way they did in the first episode. They were trying to set up how weird the Phantom High family is, but it's still odd. The disparities get really apparent down the line plot-wise as well. Like usual, studios try to adapt crap before they even have enough material to work with animation-wise. I love 2003 Fullmetal Alchemist more than I think anyone else does, but I do like things that are straight adaptations. It's weird. The same reason I have never fully sat down to watch Brotherhood is the same reason why I love the Chainsaw Man anime. It's the same thing. If I wanted to enjoy this story, I'd prefer to sit down and read the manga. I think there's also a sense of bias on my end because I can read a manga way faster than I can watch an anime adaptation, and I'm just a slow reader. But overall, I do prefer when anime tend to do the same thing as the manga, because I want to see what I've read put on screen. Hence, why I like the Chainsaw Man anime. It's a very weird dichotomy of when they deviate, I tend to enjoy them, but not for the reasons of the original manga. It's a completely different experience. Of course, my knowledge on the Black Butler anime diverging is secondhand because your boy has only ever read the circus arc up until this review, because my brother Billy has owned that part of the manga for ages now. And yes, I've watched the anime for it too. Embarrassing admission, I watched the first few episodes for reference and to get back in the Black Butler mood, and I ended up binging the entire show. I distinctly remember asking my brother, "Hey, did an angel show up in the manga?" And he just stared at me like I was insane and was like, "No." Completely derailing and making a weird as hell second season aside. The anime's messaging is just awful. Its characters are horrible and have no redeeming qualities. The CGI horses are so apparent, it makes me appreciate the Attack on Titan hand-drawn ones. In general, the Attack on Titan horses are pretty good. And in general, the whole anime is just a mess. That aside, I really like this anime. No joke, it's a guilty pleasure and a comfort show. It's so remarkably stupid. It being dumb and stupid is what led to me calling it the Funny Butler Show.
What are you talking about? There's no Black Butler adaptation. It's just the Funny Butler Show.
Me and my brother Billy watched it and clowned on it the entire time. Because the show is so clownable. Specifically, one of the first scenes of CL asking if a tea is Earl Grey to establish he has a fine nose gets frequently clowned on by me and Billy. We do the most obnoxious, horrible British accent we can and say, "Is this Earl Grey?"
I know this smell. Is this tea Earl Grey? Sebastian, do they have it? Do they have it? Oh, they have it. Okay. Hang on. Okay.
Side tangent, I tried Earl Grey tea to see what the hype was about from CL Phantom Hive. It's just black tea. I personally prefer Lady Grey way more, as it has a fruity flavor that makes it more pleasant. I'm dying to know what the hell Blue Moon Drop tastes like, though. The whole of Season 1 feels like,
We have Black Butler at home.
but as an anime. But to be honest, I kind of like the stupider angle this show goes for. It's dumb, it's comedic, everyone sucks, so when horrible things happen, you're just like, woo, instead of, aw. It's an excuse to see insane shit happen because,
Haha, the butler is a demon and we're in Victorian England.
look at how silly and fruity we can make things. Angela is unironically my favorite character and part of the series outside of Season 2's Eloise and Hannah. To avoid spoilers for all three in case you want to watch the anime, I can't go into why I love each of them, but they're all complicated and antagonists, so they share that in common. Something else I will say, I'm not a fan of how the show looks just plastic. The lighting and coloring just makes them look like action figures, and it wigs me out. However, it does capture the art style of the manga pretty well, I think.
They were plastic and fake and Star didn't like them that way.
Speaking of the art style, the manga's art style is immaculate. Perhaps the eyes are a tad too big, and the mouths are a little weird. Occasionally there's a stiff pose or two, but it's highly detailed and expressive, especially the clothing and background. My goodness. It tends to go chibi mode quite often, but it still looks so coherent. And honestly, I'll take a few chibi modes every once in a while to get gorgeous artwork overall. This could also just be that it's the artist's first forte into this world, so she's capturing and getting a grasp on that style and vibe she wants to get. I know when I try to do a new comic, I always tend to flop around like a Magikarp while drawing the first few pages. Just look at Four Swords Returns, my goodness. I don't know why the anime is allergic to Tanaka being a regular character when he seems fine in the manga. Like, him being a chibi isn't exclusive to him, everyone does that from time to time. I'm wondering if it's like a freaking, Alphonse Elric moment where it's just cheaper to draw him that way. If we were to go over every minute difference, we'd probably be here all day, though. For simplicity, episode 2 and 3's plots are switched around timeline-wise. The character of Grell is introduced earlier by adding her into the episode where Elizabeth breaks Seal's ring. Even though the episode shares the name with the wrong chapter, it's just weird. Importance of Seal's relationship with his family is more emphasized in the first episode, with him actually taking down a portrait of his father. This is something I actually like. As usually, manga is getting its footing, and the authors can't establish as much as they'd like in the first few chapters as they would if they were to go back and rewrite it. I have experienced this with Falling Cards. The manga kind of waits to reveal Sebastian as a demon to the audience. If we're going in anime order, they would have done this in episode 3. Oh yeah, spoilers I guess, Sebastian is a demon butler. I feel like everyone and their mother knows that. Even the manga description says, one might say Sebastian is too good to be true, or at least too good to be human. Sorry, he's just one devil of a butler. Or for the anime fans,
One hell of a butler.
Side note, Sebastian shares a voice actor with frickin' Erwin from Attack on Titan. The anime just ended and I'm still in pain over that. If anyone is as slick-tongued enough to make people dedicate their hearts, I'd say it's the guy who voiced a literal devil. Perfect casting, by the way. But we're not praising Attack on Titan, we're talking about Black Butler. Please, Attack on Titan fandom. I don't know how much bleed over there is between Black Butler and AOT, but please, we gotta make more jokes about this, I beg of you all. Well, anyway, let's introduce the characters of this series, since I don't know what I'm doing. Sebastian, our demon butler for the evening. Local Victorian child, CL Phantom Hive, owner of the Phantom Toy Company and also the Queen's Guard Dog. Elizabeth, aka Lizzie, CL's fiancé, and his cousin. CL's 3 bumbling workers, Marin, a clumsy maid, Phineas, strong gardener, and Baldroy, the cook. We briefly also get introduced to Lau and Madame Red in this volume, even though I don't even think their name dropped. They just show up. They're just there for a good old game of pool being played. In the anime, they're established more, so this feels way less weird, but in the manga, CL just has a bunch of randos in his house for pool, including the antagonist of the first manga. Like usual, the first volume is there to set everybody up. The fact Sebastian is a demon butler, the contract binding him to CL, the high society life he lives paired with his dumb bumbling servants, his fiancée, the dangerous life he lives tucked away in the shadows. I will say we aren't quite introduced to the main plot yet. Like, this feels like it could be a one-shot with how contained it is. The only real question on my mind is what wish does CL have that Sebastian needs to fulfill? Since that's the only real loose end, so to speak, I get from this first volume. Perhaps I've missed something, and I've just got too much context for the rest of the series. The book, I'd say, is pretty fun to read, though I would say I prefer aspects of the anime more, like the extra time being used to set things up and characters is something that feels way more polished in comparison to the manga, which feels like a previous draft or something. I also appreciate how the deal is shown from the start. The manga acting like Sebastian being a demon as a twist is just silly. I don't know if that's just the fact I'm writing it in 2023, though. And this is just common knowledge at this point. If a ton of shots of Sebastian slowly opening his mouth along with that dumb stinger sound effect every time he does something demonic, bad British accents, and ridiculous plot lines bother you, maybe stick to the manga. But if all that sounds very fun to you, then I'd recommend checking it out. For the first 3 episodes and Volume 1, you get the same general vibe from both. My girlfriend described it as different candy, same flavor, and I have to agree with that sentiment. Something I'd say about Black Butler is I would almost describe it as wish fulfillment media. Like, you get the same feeling, the anime... Like, I get the feeling that the anime wants you to take the place of CL, and almost in that regard. It's so flowery, with an OP butler to do all your work for you, and pretty sparkles and high society nonsense with a dark underbelly. Like, does anyone else get that vibe, or just me? It feels very, my boyfriend's a mob boss vibe, I don't know. CL feels very untouchable considering the circumstances anyway. Overall, I'd recommend Black Butler. It's a fun romp through Britain, with a demon butler and a spoiled brat. Do mind the age rating, though, as the series will dive into dark subjects, and I wouldn't exactly say it does them with respect or well. Specifically with horrible things happening to child characters, and its bad attempts at LGBT themes. When we get into the character of Girl Sutcliffe, if I do talk about more volumes, you'll get what I mean by, this was written in 2007, and that, in fact, was a long time ago socially. But if you give it a chance, I hope you have one hell of a time. Thanks to my Patreons, Sylvia, and Funtime Freddy 60. I'm gonna be honest here, I ended up talking more about the anime just because there was more stuff to talk about. Like, the manga is just so baseline and bland in comparison. I feel like if I had stuck with the first volume alone, it would have been like, I just wouldn't have anything to say. It's okay, I guess. Like, that would be my response. Like, it's good as a setup, but compared to the anime's first 3 episodes, it feels like so bare bones. And, like, obviously, I think if I read the manga first, I'd have a different opinion. Like, they're very similar. I just feel like the first 3 episodes set things up better. But that's my genuine opinion. The anime felt so weird. It took a lot of artistic liberties in comparison that made it just stand out way more. Not even exactly in a good way, just in a more memorable way. Like, the voice acting, the animation being kind of poop a lot of the time, so you can laugh at how bad it looks. Because it is like an early 2000s anime. I guess late 2000s. But, yeah. The first volume felt very, here's the idea. Here we go. This is my idea. We're getting all of it down. And it kind of felt like a pilot, actually. Like, it gives me the same vibes as the Death Note pilot chapter, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't have anything that's retconned, at least I don't think, yet. And it doesn't really diverge from the rest of the series. It just felt very, like, just a pilot. Excuse me. Like, I would honestly say that the first 3 episodes feel like a more complete experience, especially with how they set things up a little better. If there's enough demand, I might try to do the rest of the series, or you can recommend manga. I have a lot of manga I can read. I have a lot of the generic choices, so to speak. If there's any big manga you want me to talk about, Chainsaw Man, Attack on Titan, My Hero Academia, I have some Demon Slayer. I have the first 2 volumes of Ouran Host Club if we want to go more of like a shoujo kind of thing. Similar to Back Butler, I guess. Freaking, yeah. I also have Fruits Basket. We can fix her. No, we can't. She reads Fruit Basket. That stupid quote has been stuck in my head for like a week or 2. But yeah, if you want to recommend manga that I read for the next video, go ahead. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.